Alrighty. Hey guys, it's Sleepy Sheep. I couldn't sleep, so I figured I would do a video really quick. Lancers just got a massive buff. It's the first time ever that Lancers might actually be the best class in the entire game. So, I suppose I should explain why this is. Before, Lancers didn't have any dual scaling moves. They never had a move that hit with both an attack and defense stat. Then they got this move called Grand Impact, and it did scale off of attack and defense, but you needed to use an axe in the main slot. So Lancers got shafted there. Then Dragon Bite came out, and you can only use it when you have a lance, and it also scales with attack and defense. The problem is that if you only have one attack that scales with both of them, you're not looking very good. Most classes have multiple attacks that scale off of both attack and defense, or magic attack and magic defense. And because they have multiple abilities, they can be good in PvE. Now, Lancers have always been extremely strong in PvP, probably one of the best classes for Colosseum, but up until now, they've never had two abilities that you can use that are both scaling attack and defense. They just redid Lance Flash, which might just be the most overpowered ability we've ever seen. It is a 5-hit, 180 ability power, attack and defense scaling move. It only has a 70% chance to hit, but there are so many ways to improve that. I'll explain in just a little bit. It also reduces your ability cooldowns by 25% and helps protect you against magic damage. This ability is so overpowered. To put it in perspective, some of the really strong abilities from some other classes are Blooming Blackout at 120 and only hitting 4 times. And the Morpher ability, which hits 5 times at 150 ability power. So you have higher ability power, and lances have way higher stats than almost any other classes' stats. Staves and lances have always historically had way higher stats than swords and axes and relics and books. So you can scale way higher attacks with this class, and that gives them the potential to have way higher base attack stat, which is really good. Now, the biggest drawback to this ability, honestly, these two abilities, is their cost. They are extremely expensive, 25 cost and 20 cost. So there are a couple ways to fix this. The first one is to run Ether Exchange and Dragon Knight's Cry. I've tried it now a couple times. I've ran a couple missions, and you burn through cost like nobody's business. You run out of cost so fast with these abilities. So because of that, you need abilities that give you cost. So Ether Exchange, Dragon Knight's Cry, boom. This combination, even with the 25% ability reduction, does not give you a perfect cycle, which means that there is a 1 to 1.5 seconds where you don't do anything. This is a perfect opportunity to throw in a fast aura ability, like a weapon ability, that is really cheap and that increases cost recovery. If you have something like this, that'll fit in perfectly. Pitch Clock is great because it is a really short cooldown, it is really cheap, and it gives you cost recovery. Now, the reason why you want an ability that is really cheap is because that doesn't cost a lot to use, is because of our procs. The next thing that you need, because these abilities are so damn expensive, every single proc you have equipped needs cost. I've got a ton of procs with cost. Specifically, you want as much cost as you can get. So if you use a really cheap ability like this that gives 5 cost, and you double proc a weapon ability that gives you cost, 10 cost, then you can get 20 cost minus the 5 cost that it takes to use that ability, and you can gain 15 cost just from using that ability. So that's why we want a cheap ability. And we want a fast ability because these abilities are super, super fast. And so we want to continue to cycle your abilities as you go on. I threw in Stake All because there's no real need to have anything else. But you can also throw in something like Mend because it doesn't cost you anything and it heals your team if you need it. Now, when you're doing your procs specifically, you want to be looking for Dragon, the Slayer procs, these procs. And the reason why is they give you cost, they scale really well, but most importantly, they give you increased ability success value. Now remember that Lance Flash only has a success of 70, but you can boost this to 100% so that it always hits 5 times in a ton of different ways. One of them is by equipping lots of these Slayer procs. I don't know how many Slayer procs I have necessarily, but I just know I have at least one, so I figured I'd show this off. Slayer procs are super, super valuable. Other procs that would be super good, I know I have this proc, would be this one. Anything that is a feat proc that boosts damage on break is super, super good for Lancers. Lancers get a bunch of bonuses to break damage, and they used to be the breaking class. So that is what I would suggest. And then as far as increasing your defense, you want helms, as many helms as you can get, and that is because Lancers boost off of helms. Their biggest defense stat is the helm. The second one is armor, but you want to get as high stats as possible. You want to go all in on lances. And for the first time ever, Lancers are going to be incredibly strong. They may be the most powerful class in the entire game because they are extremely good in PvP. They've always been really good in PvP. In Colosseum, they're extremely, extremely powerful. Their abilities are really, really fast. And now that they have 2 dual scaling moves that are both extremely hard hitting, the likelihood that you can do incredible damage is really, really high. Just doing some base numbers. I mean, I'm not even that strong of attack and defense stats, but I was hitting 60 mils easy with 5 times, and I wasn't even building a PvE set. It was just a max damage set, and with throwing any kind of monsters that give basic buffs was incredible. Another thing that you want to keep in mind is anything that gives you, like for monsters that you're throwing, if you don't have those procs that increase your success value, anything that gives you success value increase, like barracks, is going to be extremely good. This one increases physical attack and magical attack ability success by 40. So you're at 110%. You're never going to miss any of your shots. Every single ability, every single hit from Lance Flash will hit 5 times. So anything that increases ability accuracy is what you're looking for monsters. Now, in my opinion, the biggest downside to maining Lancer is your class flexibility. If you are going all in on Lances, you can play 3 classes besides Lancer. Cleric, which is awful unless you're doing a super troll build, but honestly, it's not even good, and it's horrible in PvP, and it's only kind of funny in PvE and Colosseum. The second class is the Treasure Hunter, also horrible. Do not play this because if you're playing Treasure Hunter in an actual quest, you're not going to be expected to do damage anyway. So in PvP or in PvE, this is not a factor. If you're doing like regular quests, you don't need to do damage if you're playing a treasure hunter. The second reason is because in guild battles, when you're running a treasure hunter, you don't want to do damage, because if you do damage, you're going to feed the enemies, and the enemies are going to get uni, and they're going to throw a uni, and you're going to lose. And the third class that you can flex into is the ninjas. And ninjas are great for PvP, but lancers are way better than ninjas in PvP. I mean, they blow ninjas out of the water with their ability to control unis. So why would you play a ninja that won't do as much damage, that isn't as fast, and that doesn't give you as many stats, when you could play the lancer and get all of that and be a better PvP class? I mean, you can literally control unis way stronger and consistently as a lancer. It's just that this is the biggest downside, in my opinion, to playing lancer. But honestly, lancer class might actually be triple S tier as of right now, because of their flexibility. They can play Colosseum, they can play PvP now, PvE. They're great in guild battles. In fact, when we were doing GGT, in the last GGT, we intentionally went up against, in the final round, we went up against a Chinese guild, and they were using lancers in their front line, and then they were transitioning those lancers into damage on the crystal. If they had this ability, the Lance Flash ability, at that time, they 100% would have been able to kill our crystal, because lancers do incredible damage now. Absolutely incredible damage, and it is consistent. So as far as classes go, lancers probably one of the best in the entire game right now, which is a huge bonus to lancers because they've really been struggling. So to all my lancer people who have been sticking it out for a long time, mad respect to you. I have played lancer in the past, and I had to stop. Most lancers I know had to stop and flex into soldier because they couldn't get enough damage in PvE, in questing. And I just wanted to touch on this as well. When you're doing your stats, you want all of your monsters to be attack and defense, because you're scaling attack and defense. Alrighty, I won't go over anything else today, but huge update. Lancers are now extremely strong. Alrighty, see ya.